So here we sit. The Spurs finally get a win coming home to the Thunder, 132-118. Wemby, here's some numbers for you, RJ. He had 28 points, 13 rebounds. Where I'm from, they call that a double-double. He's also had 7 assists, 5 blocks, and 2 steals. That's on 9 of 17 from the floor and 5 of 7, including 1 from Paris, Texas, as Bill Land told us on the broadcast. He became the first player in NBA history with 25 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 blocks, and 5 3-pointers in a game just a couple of days ago. We call it the 5x5. Here he did it. And it wasn't just Wemby, though it was just Wemby. It wasn't just the effort, though it was just the effort. It wasn't just a little bit of discipline, but it was a little bit of discipline. Good win.
In his post-game Instagram post, which was fire, Wemby captioned it, "No place like home." Doesn't that hit you? Just a
little bit of right there.
The old Corazon. This game kicked ass. This game had it all. Like this was the I brought up Furs to Joe this week. Remember Furs buffet?
It's not Luby's, but it's good.
I mean, you would go, you'd get a scoop of this, a scoop of that. You know what I mean? Like this had it all. You got like pick the Wemby thing that you like the most, obviously. Devin Vassell, hey. Keldon Johnson, hey. Dominating Chet, hey. Like you know what I mean? This just scratched every conceivable itch. Back at home after the Rodeo Road Trip, hey. This was. I don't know that this was proof of concept in any sort of way. I'm not willing to go that far by any stretch, but this was a much needed breath of fresh air. I mean, after we're not quite Eddie Dufresne on the other side here, but I mean, golly, it was great to just take a breath and remember what life smells like.
Love the reference. The win was great, but the night started pretty good. For those that were there early, they got a little, how the NBA now lets the guys come out and talk to you. They give you the mic, get the fans behind you. Well, no group of fans needed to hear from their guy more than anybody. And he cussed again. That's twice now. That's twice now in front of the kids.
Twice in like 3 weeks.
He's kind of let it rip.
And two different curse words. It's not like he has a favorite. You know what I'm saying? So
you get the sense, you act like who you're around. And, your mentor is a guy who probably lets a few of them rip. I get it. I know that, Pop, you speak in certain ways. And I've seen, at least I've read, I have no verification other than I read it on a social media post, that the overcussers tend to be more intelligent. And I tend to agree.
I like to play the win probability game a lot. What do you think the Thunder's highest win probability was?
Gosh. Somewhere in the,
to be clear.
Somewhere in the third, maybe.
So the highest they ever achieved was with 3:38 left in the first.
Oh, in the first. Wow.
Yeah, they were up 31-24. And their win probability was 88.4%.
I want to talk about that. Go ahead.
That came down, and then the Spurs had really swung things their way, and they carried an 87.5% win probability when they were up by 12 in the third. But then then Oklahoma City narrowed the gap, and then the other box this game as a whole checked was it had a back and forth, right? It wasn't just like a cruise control sort of thing. So the Thunder, with 9 minutes and 27 seconds left in the contest, had a 75.3% win probability when they were up by 3 points. The Spurs won. I mean, that's hard. That is the true mark of a good team. If you can overcome something like that in the final, 9.5 minutes of a game, you're a good basketball team, and that happened.
There's so much to undress here. This we do it every day. It's called the Talking Silver and Black. You got something to say, you can reach out. 656-3776. You can type it or talk on that line, or you can join the mini and get on the scroll there at our YouTube feed. What do we call them?
The Brigade Bar.
Get on the Brigade Bar, front and center. The game started as a back and forth between he and Chet, and mano y mano. That I really did feel like I was looking into the future. Because now these guys, at this point, they're no longer rookies. I mean, you played You played a lot of basketball by now.
Right.
Chet certainly isn't a rookie. And it looked like a battle of dudes that can play and do everything. It was one of those. I don't think it's one of those seminal moments in the league, but I think everybody who was there, who watched really got a sense of what future of basketball looks like. Watching bounce passes from Chet and backdoor cuts and things that he's doing. He's a phenomenal basketball player. He really is just ridiculous. And Wemby is just that much better. He just is just better at doing the same things. And they're both unique.
It's a lot easier to admit that Chet is awesome when Wemby's better,
Mhm.
and when the Spurs won the game. Right?
It helps. It does help.
This is the most willing we're able to be humble about it. But you're right. This was the first time that a matchup with the two of them. Not that there's been 100 of these, but that it's really lived up to the like, oh man, the rookie, the battle of the rookies, you know, and it really did kind of have some of that vibe, and it was great. It was great basketball. Like, I mean, and you know, I wouldn't even say Spurs Twitter, although Spurs Twitter obviously loved it, but my general Twitter timeline, like people, you know, who I follow from different, you know, aspects that just love the NBA and love basketball. Really, it was a treat. You know what I mean? It was a treat of a game to kind of parachute into if you didn't even have a rooting interest, just to kind of watch this and to see the Wemby block on Chet. I think was just this like, holy crap! Like, like, I mean, you want to talk about the future? That's the future. Because if he can do that to Chet, and not to make Chet into be something that he's not yet, but if he can do that, like, who's safe? You know,
no one.
You know, like nobody is safe at this point in time. It was just this incredible cover for the potential that he has flashed over and over. It's not even a flashing, the potential that he has proven he has over and over and over and over and over again. What that is the moment of his rookie season so far for me. Not the 5x5 night. I know he did have the technical 5x5 with the 3-pointers, but and that's another thing. The 3-point shot, you know, so this was the like, okay, he might, you know, I know you're a big Pokemon fan.
All the way.
This was like he's gone from Charmander to Charmeleon. You know,
it's already happened. It just blew up right there.
Watch out.
Got to catch them all. Wemby talked about what the difference was in the game.
So the difference is the 39 assists, 40 assists. So it's this makes a difference in big games. I mean, and also not turning the ball over in the fourth quarter, and yeah, I mean just playing with heart. You know, I think it's one of the best ways to come back at home after a month away.
Victor post game talking about the difference it was in the game and discipline, man. Don Harris made a point the other day. And this is just, and I love Don, and I think that he very much gets where the Spurs are. You know, I think that he knows of what he speaks. And we had noticed it. We thought, Keldon, was he sick? You know, it's unlike Pop to be pulling these guys with mistakes. Was he reverting, or was this Keldon's kind of sick? This was a couple of games ago. And then we saw Wemby, and was it Devin sat down to start the third quarter the other night? Jeremy. So I think that Pop's kind of looking at him like we've been looking at him, and it's starting to manifest like you're no longer rookies, man. At some point, you got to grow up, and you got to put on your big boy pants and pay the price when you make a mistake. I babied you guys long enough. It's time to stop making mistakes, and when you do, you're going to pay the price by watching other guys who at least will effort. And I think we're seeing a little of that.
I'm not willing to come with you this far and say, well, the corporal punishment clearly worked. Like
it always works, RJ.
Well, and if I'm annoyed at anything, it's that this game happened on the heels of, that administration. And so, this is the whole, Spurs following of the world is just, see, Pop knows what he's doing. Just shut up and trust him. And right now, it's kind of hard to argue with that. I will give you that, everybody. You've earned that one, Pop. So good for you. But I mean, I would partly chalk that up to being a little bit of coincidence. Well, that this outing happened. The way it did. With all that, my point is, I don't know that Keldon or Jeremy this morning would say, you know what, man, if not for getting benched, what I did this week, we wouldn't have been as successful as we were on.
Well, no player's ever going to admit that in their heart of hearts. But no, in their heart of hearts, they do know that maybe I should pay a little bit more attention. And if I'm not getting in trouble for it, if I do throw the ball away now, and I just get a stern look from Pop instead of as soon as I throw a bad pass, I just see Pop turn and I see a guy stand up and rip his shorts, rip his pants off. There's a big difference from knowing that if I make a mistake, man, I'm going to be watching. Then, I might get a halftime reminder. Big difference. And I think that might be the primary thing. You're right, RJ. This is one-off game. And what the worst thing about these kind of games is you see what they're capable of when they manage to put together long-term runs of efficiency. They don't have to make every shot, but they stay efficient. They make their plays. There was a significant play last night that all Wemby did was just seal off his defender. He didn't do anything special. He didn't do anything unique. But in the paint, when he was obviously a target in the Devin Victor game, the two-man game I want to talk about here in a second. But Devin turns the corner off of a pick, and he sees Victor open. But what Wemby did at that moment was, okay, I'm not going to get the ball just because of where he is. And he sealed off two defenders and just gave Devin an open lane for a layup. And when I saw that, I thought, that's the two-man game I'm waiting on. It doesn't always have to benefit the receiver of the pass, but those two guys were playing together. And Wemby did something for his other dude to say, yeah, you don't always have to throw to me, but if you notice that I am indeed that weapon, and he was given the ball by Devin a lot, things work well. And it did last night. So maybe that's one more step into getting where you're going. And Steven, you are right. The cure of all ills, the fixer of all problems in basketball is making shots, and more importantly, making threes. And when you do that, you win a lot of basketball games, and they did. So that in itself is something you can't bottle, but when you get it, enjoy it.
You make a great point, I think, with your example. Now, we talked earlier this week about Derek White on Pardon My Take. He was on with Peyton Pritchard. And we talked about how Derek mentioned the wine stuff with Pop.
Mm-hmm.
One of the more interesting things he talked about that was basketball related was he was asked, like, what's it like to kind of go to the NBA and have to move so much without the ball and be ready, and he was like, that's a really underrated skill to be able to, because everybody comes into the NBA and you're so used to being the guy wherever you were. And all of a sudden you're not. And so you have to play basketball, and basketball isn't just handling the ball. And to your point, it's not even about the end of the play or whatever the case may be. Like there is such a skill involved in the overall orchestra at any given moment, the beautiful game as it relates to this particular team, obviously. And I think that we saw that on display a little bit, obviously, throughout this particular game. And that's great. And you're right. And it is representative of what they can be, and they can't necessarily be this was, I think, the 100th percentile of who they can be, right? and it worked out that way. I don't think it would be fair or rational to expect this on a consistent basis. You didn't ask, but I'll tell you that they kept up their 20 assist streak.
Oh, here we sit. What are we at? Where we sit?
We are at 118. So we need two more to tie the record. Two games away from a piece of history, but 3 games away from outright banner-hanging history. Next Friday morning, we'll know whether or not the Spurs did it against Sacramento.
Almost there.
Indiana, Houston, and the Kings. And then they're on top of the mountain all by themselves.
We're going to remember that block because of what it felt like. But I think the evening was made by the deep three, the shots that mattered. And Wemby took them. Victor last night talked about not being afraid of the moment and taking the big shot.
I would say it's a requisite for, any player who want to be great, but also, coming into the league already. Most players in the league are they've been through a lot of challenges, and I've been through a lot of challenges in my life and my basketball life. So you have to live with it. It is what it is. So you want to be great or you don't.
That was the moment. Shot.
He just gets it, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are certain players, whatever team, whatever sport it is, that are just a dream to root for. An absolute dream to be the best, your favorite player on your favorite team. Wemby checks those boxes in like like old-timey quill ink, like just thick, beautiful, like, like it just, and it's really rare that you get these franchise-altering players like this that are also willing to be humble and toe the company line.
Mhm.
The first clip we played was him saying, well, we didn't have any turnovers in the fourth quarter. That, like, just, an extension of pop. I mean, and there are not a lot of, especially young players, who would come in and who would be willing to do that. I mean, we're not quite through the tunnel, but there is a very warm and beautiful light on the other side. And Victor properly represents that.
You talked about the tunnel. And Wemby actually was asked about you brought up two things. First of all, played the whole fourth quarter. We're going to talk about the significance of that when we stay on the Spurs. But before we go there, the way that he played, the way that he closed the game out, the Spurs only have 12 wins. And it feels like if they can continue to do this is the kind of team that can beat some guys. Wemby talked about this could be about the time they're going to play their best basketball. And my question to you is, first of all, let's hear from him. And do you want what could very well be coming?
I think we might come in and have some of our best stretches in the season, because we're over the winter and the Rodeo Road Trip. So now that we're back at home for some time, I think it's the best. The atmosphere was great, and I think this is the best for us to win games.
That's Wemby talking about this could be the beginning of something beautiful. But do we want that now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you need these moments. You need these reminders of what the greater goal is and why we're crawling through this tunnel. And last night was a good reminder at what it can ultimately yield by watching Wemby go off, right? Like, there's a lot of teams who decide to crawl out of the tunnel that probably wish they hadn't last year. And, look at what Wemby did. And I think I'm like, man alive, this dude is different.
But we're losing draft picks. We're losing ping pong balls. And as we sit currently, according to Tankathon, Spurs would be sitting at number 3 and also at 7. And a lot does depend on what Toronto does. But,
the Toronto pick is top 7 or 6 protected.
5 or 6. Well, it's protected. So there's nothing we can do about that. Although we managed to beat them, which didn't help our cause a couple of weeks back. So what my point is, yeah, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. And I get that this is a team that they better be improving by a lot of different measures. And wins and losses, while it might not be the most important to pop, does kind of matter. And we want to see that. But at the same time, we know this year is done. Charles Barkley and Shaq post game yesterday. We're talking about what they saw with the Spurs in Oklahoma City. And really a unique conversation. This was Shaq post game talking about where the Spurs are, what he saw, and what they should be doing in the near future.
My thing with San Antonio, they got to get really busy this summer. We know what caliber player they got. You got to put some players around them. Because all that was cute, but still 12 and 48. But if you get some caliber players around them, I think we could relive the system how it used to be.
That's Shaq. Don't wait, baby. The clock is always ticking. And even if you're MacGyvering it, you better get it taken care of as fast as you can. Patience is for those with nothing else to do.
Well, I mean, there are 22 games left in the season. And this is, when you were a kid, you ever go into the last weekend of a break, right? Like whether it's Christmas break, summer break, you're like, all right, this is the last one. This is the last chance I have to stay up till 4 a.m. and eat Rice Krispie treats, which are apparently the best snack in the whole country. Right. And but because then, Monday morning comes around, and I gotta get back on it. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get back to normal routine. This is your weekend, Spurs. These 22 games, this is your last chance to just kind of mess around and find out, because Shaq is right. I mean, and I don't know any Spurs fan that disagrees. I mean, even the ones who have defended the whole process all season long, this summer, what we have seen, and it was already the case, but Wemby's greatness has only amplified the reality of it all. You have to you got to get off the couch. You have to. You cannot go through another year like this. The difference in competitiveness on a night-to-night basis next season has to be the other end of the spectrum relative to where we're at right now.
First of all, you have to be patient. They're not close to winning. Like
That's because they don't have no players.
that's right, but you just can't go. Even if you brought in a great player, they're not going to win next year. Be patient, man.
Charles
Oh yeah, they got to
Barkley.
start building, but we're
This
looking.
team right here ain't gonna get it
We're
done.
probably.
My first
They're not gonna make the
Yeah, but you
playoffs.
got to make some moves this summer.
Yeah, yeah, but they're not gonna make the playoffs next year, more than likely. So you got to say yourself, and
You gotta
our
make some
goal
moves
is
this
3
summer.
years.
Yeah.
3 years. Let's make the playoffs.
That's post game yesterday. The TNT crew going at it. Barkley preaching patience. 3 years for the playoffs.
Nah.
No.
Do you know my rule of 3 years is always it's a rule of 1,000 days. That's how long 3 years is. It's 1,000 days. You're gonna give the Spurs 1,000 days to fix this? No. Like when you put it that way, it sounds so much worse, right? Because you say like, oh, 3 years, that's not that bad. 1,000 days. No way. This season has been way too long. I mean, you cannot. There's no reason the Spurs have enough draft capital, especially if they continue. If they go back inside the tunnel for the rest of this season. They have enough draft capital to work. They have Wemby. They have Devin Vassell. You can take anything else you want, whoever else. There's no reason for them to not be competitive next season.
What do you think? Sound off like you got a pair. 656-3776, 656-ESPN. You can talk, you can type, whatever you'd like. And if you want to get on the scroll and last forever, you could go to our YouTube feed. Yes, of course, we're talking silver and black. This is 94.1 San Antonio Sports Star. This team is capable of winning 3, 4, 5 games. Because now here's the problem that the Spurs are going to run into is we're now into
the rest of the season.
Well, I'm just saying we're now running into a lot of teams that don't want to win either.
Okay.
And at this point, we'll win some games that we're not going to expect. And no one expected last night.
You want to hear some drama potentially?
I'm ready for some.
You're a dramatic guy.
I'd seek it out. Yes.
Final game of the regular season, Sunday, April 14th, is against who? Who do you know? Do you know off the top of your head?
The Los
Don't
Angeles
cheat.
Lakers. I don't know.
It is against the Detroit Pistons.
Ooh, they saw something coming, didn't they? It's not scripted NBA.
That is the most. Tell me you're not excited about this. This is, you know what, Pop? I think Keldon needs to play point one last time.
See that would be the stumbling block that you could just kind of throw out there to throttle the team. But I think as a Spurs fan, I don't care. I brought that up to just kind of point out the fact that you could play your way down. The fact of the matter is, this is a weak ass draft, and number 12 could turn out to be a Hall of Famer. No one knows in this one. There's a lot of dudes. There's not a lot of great dudes. And as the Spurs sit, I kind of fall on both sides. Barkley, you're right. They're a long way away, but this is the NBA, and I've seen teams turn it quick. I'll say this: in 3 years, the Spurs better be a second round out.
I don't fall on both sides at all here. This is a one-sided thing. I mean, Shaq is right. Team Shaq. I mean, because I agree with Timmy Pratt in the Brigade Bar. It says, LOL, when did 3 years start? Last year, after all the trades and losing season, would be year 1. This season, year 2. Next season would be year 3. So they better be winning next year with that idea.
Hey.
I mean, if it's progressive, you have to at least be competitive next year along that point.
Well, they might be competitive over the next couple of weeks. If you like their prospects, tell us why. Is it something they need to continue to do? You give glory where it needs to be, and Devin probably won't get the just desserts for what he has done, or at least he did last night, because not only did he offer the scoring, but he offered the inside looks that Victor has desperately needed. And the guy, Victor, planted a flag last night. He took a shot when it mattered. Remember, there was about a minute and a half to go. They had a 6-point lead. It felt like it could slip away. And Wemby hits a shot from Isaiah. It wasn't quite the Paris, Texas shot, but it was deep and it mattered. Spurs win. We feel good today. Don't we wish we had some free coffee on the way? We missed that.
Hey, have you seen your son's photo of Wemby last night? This is a great picture.
Yeah, both my boys witnessed it pretty close last night, and I was getting pretty quick updates. Yeah, they had a good time last night. What a great game to be at. Spurs fans needed that last night. From Wemby cussing at us and being happy to be there, to the big shots and the Wemby moment that was the block.